Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today the first 1.20 snapshot dropped, and all the features that got announced at last weekend's Minecraft Live event are already in it. So we have camels, bamboo, rafts, hanging signs, chiseled bookshelves, and a couple more things, like a couple of bug fixes that are really relevant. And as you can see, there's actually a fun way to make a 4-seater vehicle in Minecraft now, but more about that later. First, a little bit of info in case you want to check out the snapshot. You can select it normally in your launcher, but in case you want to try it out, you actually have to select a data pack when you create a new world. So you just create a new world, click on data pack, and then select update 1.20, new features and content for Minecraft 1.20. Bundles are separate, so bundles are known. I think they got added the first time in 1.17. Got removed later because there were compatibility issues with Pocket Edition. But in case you want to try them out, you can also select them. Right, then just click on Done, Proceed, and create new world. Okay, let's talk about the new features, and let's start with the camel. So you can find those creatures in desert villages. I teleported to 5 desert villages and always found exactly one camel there. Maybe take this with a grain of salt, but it seems like it's always one, similar to always getting at least one iron golem there. This is kind of interesting, so in case you want to start breeding camels, you probably need to bring one camel to a second desert village, which is quite easy, because you only need to apply a saddle on the camel, no taming required or anything, you can already mount it. And it's also possible that a second player would also ride the same camel. There are 3 different velocities the camel can move at, so there's normal walking, sprinting like a player, and then there's additionally dashing, so you can charge it with your spacebar. After you dashed for a couple seconds, you can only walk until the camel is able to sprint again. In general, the camel is quite fast, but can't really reach the speed of a really fast horse in comparison. But there's one advantage of a horse, for example, you can easily ride over fences. So 1.5 block tall gap, no problem, you can just ride over it. Dashing also allows you to jump over a gap, but requires some precise timing. The camel speed, by the way, is a default speed, so you can't find a quick camel, or you can't get a quicker camel by breeding. Camel itself is also quite tall, it's 2.5 blocks high. Sometimes they lay down randomly, and then also the hitbox changes. You can then mount them, and they would stand up. There's a quick way to cause them to stand up, which is punching them. In terms of hearts, they always also come with 16 hearts. So this seems to be default as well. And they also heal themselves like horses sometimes. Because of its tall stature, it's actually also possible to ride it in 3 deep water. So you wouldn't get automatically dismounted. But there is one downside. The camel would start drowning at some point. But at least you wouldn't get dismounted immediately. In case you would try to go down any deeper, so as soon as the player's head is underwater, then it would also dismount you. Because actually sitting higher on the camel, zombies couldn't even reach you. So you can be completely surrounded here by husks and zombies, and they wouldn't be able to hit you. Gotta be careful, sometimes if you hit them, they jump up a little bit and are able to damage you still. There's one downside, also for example, skeletons can still shoot you. You shouldn't mess with Endermen. Try that real quick. They can punch you. Can they? Earlier I got killed by an Enderman. Looks like it's a little bit bugged, but I'm certain it can actually reach you. You can also get baby camels, just need to breed 2 camels using cactus. There we go. That's the baby camel. You can also heal the camel with the cactus, so if they take a little bit of damage, as you can see now, just feed them some cactus, so they're at full health again. You can't move the sitting camels at all, I guess they're just too heavy, so I can't move them. That's not possible, also with the babies. You can put the camels into minecarts though, so that's a possibility, even with the adult ones. Yeah, there's hardly any mob you couldn't put in a minecart. Big Ghast also fits in there, but you can't put adult camels into boats, so that doesn't work. But yeah, let's try it. Minecart can be picked up. It's also not possible to force a camel to stay in the seated position by placing blocks above, for example. They would even take suffocation damage if they stand up after it. There we go. It is, however, possible to put baby camels into boats, and that's where it actually gets interesting. So it is possible to put 2 baby camels in a boat. If they grow up into adult camels, they stay in the boat. So what you can do is now to put 2 camels in a boat, grow them up into adults, put a saddle on the adult camels, and then pick up the boat with a minecart. Write it out real quick. There we go. And now you actually have a 4-seater vehicle. So it's basically a sedan. For extra comedic effect, you can also start dashing. It's kind of funny because the camel wouldn't stop dashing. I think the condition that they would stop is hitting the ground, and since they're a little bit higher up, it would never hit the ground and just keep dashing. It's also possible to put a lead on a camel. And that actually is the perfect opportunity to talk about one of the bug fixes in this snapshot. So previously it was an issue that if you had an animal dangling from a lead, it would accumulate fall damage. You can easily test this if this was fixed. Now I'm just gonna go down again. And there we go. The camel doesn't die because it kept hanging from a lead for a while. One more thing, the camel doesn't drop anything except XP if you kill it, or the saddle if you use that. I would have expected they would maybe drop leather, but that's not the case. Alright, I think we covered the most important things about the camel. Yeah, definitely welcome addition to the mob family, especially with the detailed ear and tail animation. Mojing really getting fancy here. Next, let's check out a new block, the Chiseled bookshelf. So its purpose is storing books. You can put up to 6 books inside. And it works with enchanted books, normal books, a book and quill, or just books you've written in. Okay, works for up to 6 slots. You can also easily take the books out, but it always puts them in a certain order. So it starts from the top left and completes the row, and then it goes one down. So you can't pick out a certain book, which is a bit unfortunate. Let's check out some block properties of the bookshelf. So you can power it, you can put rails on top, and you cannot move it. This was also expected, because it stores the NBT of the books stored inside. We would need movable block entities, and then we could probably also move the bookshelves. The bookshelf also has some limited redstone functionality. It keeps track of the last slot that it was interacted with. So if I put a book in there, the observer also turns on, so it can also detect that change. And now 1 redstone signal is on. This doesn't mean that there's 1 book inside. You would think so. If I put a second one in there, now we got a redstone signal of 2 and so on, up to 6. But if I take a book out, it still stays at 6. So the logic is that we interacted with the last slot of the bookshelf, the 6th slot, and that's why it stays on. We can also check with the F3 menu, last interaction book slot 6, book stored 5. So you could maybe make a counter to keep track how many books are inside. But in case you would update so quickly, the observer would be overwhelmed by this. Alright, so if I take out another book, then signal goes down to 5, take 1 out, then down to 4, and down to 1. So that also means the only time when a bookshelf doesn't give out a redstone signal, if you put a comparator next to it, is if you've never interacted with it at all. To be honest, when it comes to practical applications of the Chiseled bookshelf, nothing really comes to mind. So you could always go for some gimmicky stuff, for example a hidden switch, put in books in a certain sequence and take them out to enable a secret door or something else. That's something you can definitely do, might be quite fun. But when it comes to like just pure practical use, I don't think it's gonna be too useful. Kind of competes with stuff like the lectern, for example, or a note block, which I think easier to use. It's always easier to just click a note block without having to have a book in your hand. And a lectern where you can turn a page and select something is also probably more convenient than putting a certain amount of books in there. Also, some functionality I'm really missing about the Chiseled bookshelf. I thought it would be at least nice if you could tell what's inside of the bookshelf. Like if you, for example, have a renamed book, if you hover over it, that it would at least show you what's inside. Maybe that's not the art style of Minecraft, but yeah, how am I supposed to tell what's inside now? There's no GUI. I at least put my books in a chest, and I can hover over and see what's inside. So when it comes to use as a practical book storage, I think a chest or double chest would still be better. Also, it would definitely be nice if you could pick out a certain book out of a certain slot that you select instead of doing it in a certain order. It might be nice. And what I'm really missing is hopper functionality for the Chiseled bookshelf. Okay, I guess they wanted to do something with the rest of the community by adding this kind of stuff, but yeah, I feel like what I really would want is the ability to put stuff into it automatically. There's a couple applications that would come to mind immediately what I can do with that. For example, I could hook up, all my books to a certain output. That happens quite often that I, for example, want to make a good Silk Touch, Efficiency, Unbreaking, Mending, Pickaxe, and then multiple of those. Would be kind of nice if you could just hook up my chest to the bookshelf, and then instead of opening a chest and taking one out, closing the chest, if I could just right-click and get my mending book, and this would automatically refilled by the hopper. This would be super nice if this would work. Also, if you could automatically take out the books out of the bookshelf in combination with this redstone functionality, I'm sure there would be interesting uses for that. And of course, we could automatically sort books. For example, the output of your fish farm could be filtered through this Chiseled bookshelf. You would only be able to put books in there. Everything else would go maybe to a bottom hopper or something like that. So this way we could sort out enchanted books without the use of an array, which would be quite handy. Alright, next let's check out the new bamboo block palette. This is basically a tense wood type. So after oak, birch, spruce, jungle, dark oak, acacia, the two nether trees, and the mangrove trees, it's a tense type of wood. We already have the crafting material in the game though, so you can craft bamboo planks out of 4 bamboo. And this is basically the base material for all the other type of blocks. So the usual way you can craft fences, fence gates, slabs, doors, trapdoors, and pressure plates out of it. There's a specialty that you can't find with the other types of wood though. There are bamboo mosaic blocks. So the way you can get those, you need to craft slabs, and like a chiseled stone block, you can craft it into the mosaic block. That you can then also turn into slabs again, and I think stairs is also a possibility. There's also a unique sound if you place the blocks or walk over the blocks. Or activate, for example, the fence gates, doors, and trapdoors. Placing the normal planks sounds like before, but if you place the nether planks, so the warped or crimson ones, it sounds a bit different. You'll surely notice. You also get the same type of fuel efficiency, for example, with the bamboo planks, which means you can smelt 1.5 items with bamboo planks. This is kind of interesting because it takes 4 bamboo to craft 1 bamboo plank. You can smelt exactly 1 item before normal bamboo items, but with the planks you can smelt 1.5. So basically increase the fuel efficiency of your bamboo if you do this. So technically you could make a bamboo farm, craft everything into planks, and then use it for your furnace array, but usually people build the bamboo farms in the first place. Oh, just gonna lay down here. In order to have a fully automatic fuel source that doesn't require the player to interact except being there for the random ticks. But in case somebody has maybe a small scale bamboo farm, it's maybe worth considering crafting everything into planks, although it's also a lot of work. It's also worth mentioning that there's a bamboo boat and bamboo chess boat called a raft. But apart from looking different, there's not much to report on because it acts exactly like a normal boat. It has the same hitbox, the way it interacts with entities is exactly the same. So you can also put 2 baby camels in there and create your 4-seater. It's exactly like a normal boat. There's one more new block I want to talk about. It's the hanging sign. So it comes in 10 different colors. You can use another trees, bamboo and overworld trees. You can write on it like on a normal sign, but the font is larger. So if you compare this with a normal sign, there are a lot more fits in one row. Okay, the crafting recipe is actually surprisingly expensive. So you will need 6 stripped logs. That's the important part, not normal logs. I would try it with the normal logs, it wouldn't work. And 2 chains. So you gotta strip a lot of wood for that. And then you get 6 hanging signs. So it basically costs you 1 log to make 1 sign and a bit over a third of an iron ingot per sign. It's kind of also worth mentioning that it's cheaper with oak. So if you would use, does it work with the mosaic even? Nope. You need the normal oak planks. Then you just need 6 of those, and it gives you 2 hanging signs. So in a way, it's actually more expensive when it comes to iron, so a bit over 1 ingot per hanging sign. But I would say it's kind of cheaper when it comes to the planks, since there's obviously no log variant. In general, I think it's also easier to farm a lot of bamboo compared to logs. But yeah, costs you more iron then. It's kind of yeah, balanced, I guess, but I'm not entirely sure. There are also 3 different ways how you can place the hanging sign, which makes it look different. So you can place it on the underside of a block that fully supports it, like the log block here, and it will have 2 chains that attach to the side of the log. Then if you have, for example, a fence that can also support the sign in the middle, the 2 chains connect to the middle. Not entirely sure about all the rules, how it works. For example, here with the trapdoor, it also connects to the middle. The crafting table does as well. I would assume the crafting table is at least kind of similar to the log. Maybe there's an inconsistency. I would assume maybe there will be some bug fixes, and maybe this will be changed later. Then it's also worth noting that the signs that hang from the underside of a block don't have any collision, unlike the sign that hangs from the side. You can actually walk on this little rod here. This type of sign also doesn't need support afterwards, so you could just break this one and it would then just float and you can still walk on it. You couldn't place a hanging sign on the side of this hanging side, so only on the short or the end you can place another one. You can also place, for example, a fence on the top of a sideways hanging sign, and it wouldn't change its appearance. Let's also talk about the hitbox of the top part here. It's kind of interesting. So it's 4 pixels wide, just like a fence, for example, and 2 pixels high. That's kind of interesting. There's definitely one technical application that comes to mind. For example, you can make a creeper-only farm using trapdoors, and you'll surely be able to do the same with the hanging signs, because those would then prevent taller mobs like skeletons or zombies from spawning. So it's 2 pixels high and like 3 pixels with the trapdoor. I don't think you can do anything unique when it comes to mob spawning, apart maybe from some really obscure mobs, passive mobs. That the trapdoor couldn't do. But definitely something interesting. A new block we can align against is always interesting for technical players. Oh yeah, 2 more things. So if you break the supporting block of a hanging sign hanging from the underside of a block, it would break. And that's something that I found really interesting. It can actually also support a lantern or a bell. So both variants. Not entirely sure if this is intended, I think it's kind of neat. Let's also talk about the changed order of the creative menu. So the categories get ordered in a new way. That I think is definitely improvement over the old one. For example, all the oak items are now next to each other. We check the building blocks. Then all the types of stone neatly next to each other. Prismarine, then for example all the mining related blocks, copper, terracotta, all in a nice order. Carpet next to wool instead of in the decoration menu, which also got renamed into nature blocks. There we go. Yeah, we got the logs again, but that's okay, I feel like. They show up in different menus now. Then we got functional blocks. Although you could argue that the fletching table is not really that functional. little comment on the side here. Then, yeah, the transport stuff got added to the redstone category. All the minecarts, rails, and so on. I think that's kind of neat because that's basically redstoning anyway. Then, yeah, there's a new tab for the spawn eggs, for example. Crafting stuff. You could always argue if maybe some stuff should have its own category of a certain type of item. Might be better in another menu, but I think overall it's definitely an improvement. There's maybe little details that could still be further improved, but overall, yeah, I'm really happy with this. Okay, let's also quickly talk about the most relevant bug fixes in this snapshot. So first of all, mobs can no longer spawn on top of scaffolding and chorus flowers. This will definitely affect some mob farms, but I found it interesting you're still able to put, for example, rails or repeaters on top of the chorus flower. When I first read that this will be fixed in the next snapshot a couple of weeks ago, so immediately afraid of that because there's actually some niche uses of rails on top of chorus flower. But yeah, just want to report that it's still possible. Alright, then you probably know that if you hold down Q while hovering over an item in inventory, yeah, you throw one out every tick. But you couldn't do that before with items in a chest, for example, and this is now also possible. Killing a rabbit would now also always give you some meat. Before it was 0 to 1 item, so 0.5 on average, and this was changed, I guess, to make it consistent with, for example, chickens. You always get raw chicken if you kill one. You can also maybe test it quickly with looting. You can also get more than one of those items, which is also a little bit weird. It used to be that you always got one type of raw chicken, which you look at the item, kind of makes sense, but it was also changed a couple of versions ago. You can get more than one if you use looting on it. Yeah, and similar with the rabbit. Not sure if this should be really considered as intended. Alright, so that's all for the day. So everything that was announced at Minecraft Live was already in the snapshot. But there's definitely a couple months left until we get 1.20. Release date is 2023. Mojang is trying a new strategy to only announce what they've already finished. So since there's a couple months left, we can definitely expect that more will be added, but we really don't know what the rest is or what the theme of the update is. So I guess it will be a surprise. I'm definitely looking forward to a couple more features. So we got today was definitely super nice. I'm happy to have this stuff in the game, but was kind of hoping for a little bit more, maybe a biome update or something like that. We'll see what will be added. Alright, thanks guys for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.